Ladies and gentlemen, my name is In the Game Kaya, and welcome to ITGK Survives, just not the series. In this tutorial series, we're covering settings and different things that you're going to need to know when you play the game. So the last video that I did in this series, we talked about the settings over here, which didn't save. That's just wonderful. But that's not really too important right now. So today we're going to talk about modifications and what you're going to want to know about them, using them, how to apply them specifically, and a few mods you're probably going to want to use. Some of these are more helpful if you're running a server or playing multiplayer. Some are PvE, some are PvP, some are both. You know, so like, what are you gonna want to know? Because ARK by itself is a great game. You do not need mods. But if you're going to run with mods, you know, a lot of people actually really like running with even just one or two mods to make things better. So you'll see I have a list here. They're of various different things. But I'll go over a few mods that you're going to want. First, how do you get mods? Well, there's a button right up here. Get new mods. Okay, so real quick, this is Kaya from the future, as I realized that my Steam overlay wasn't showing in that video, but when you click that, it'll show you a page kind of somewhat like this, and then you can go ahead and there's a browse item. You can look at things you've already subscribed to if you've been here. Just click most popular, and this will give you some mods that people have been subscribing to most recently. And then there's also a search. You can go ahead and just search for a mod and click on it and view it. It'll give you preview images, even videos. There will be a discussion or a description of the mod and what it does. Popular discussions about the mod right here. You can view more. Many of them are pinned. It works like many forums online. And top comments and most recent comments right here. So that's kind of what you're going to see. This is what you're looking for. And just go ahead and go through and take a look for yourself. Look for mods that you think might fit you. And let's go back to the video. But what kind of mods are you going to want? Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, you're probably going to want either Structures Plus or Simple Spawner. Or, sorry, Super Structures. My bad. You're either going to want Structures Plus or Super Structures. Building an ARK kind of has its problems sometimes. And you can mitigate that a little bit. One really important thing that you're going to want to do, in the event that you didn't see my previous video, somewhere in here, you're going to want to click this box, Disable Structure Placement Collision. That helps, but there are other things, snap points, various features that you're going to want from Superstructures and Structures Plus. I use Superstructures, but that's because I use a piece of software that is designed to use Superstructures and not Structures Plus to set up configs. So that's why I used to use Structures Plus, but for the most part I use Superstructures now. They're basically the same mod. Superstructures is a mod of Structures Plus. So me personally, if you want to know what I use Structures Plus. So let's go ahead, or I'm sorry, I use Superstructures. So let's go ahead and put Superstructures in our list. Now, whatever mod is at the top of the menu is what the game will load first and consider the most important. So, if other mods require this mod to be loaded, you'll want to make sure it's at the top. There are some mods that absolutely must be put at the top. If so, they will usually say in the mod description, if you're reading, when you're looking through the mods, it will usually say this needs to be on top. But for some mods it's important. Usually it's not a big deal. Okay, so we have our superstructures. What else are we going to want? There's plenty of others that I would recommend, but just this is one that's almost, like, if you're going to play with mods, it's almost required. So many people use Superstructure, Structures Plus. Some other great ones you're going to want. Krakens Better Dinos adds in several abilities and features for various dinos in the game, and helps the game to feel a little bit more complete, and like every dino kind of has its place. Because as new creatures got added to ARK, some of the old creatures feel a little bit lacking in terms of features or whatnot. And so Krakens can add some really interesting new things to your dinosaurs that you're probably going to want. I definitely like this mod. I would recommend, if you're really new to ARK, don't use this right away. I mean, it's not going to kill you. It's not like super hard or drastically changing the game or anything. It's just a nice little tweak. But it would be useful to know what the game is like without it before you put it in, so you can really appreciate what all it's doing. Other than that, a couple of others that I always use: ARK Editions, The Collection, which is a collection of additional creatures created by, I can't remember the name of the guy that made this mod. But anyways, this is an extremely well-made mod. The creatures that are in this mod are absolutely amazing. It feels like they were in ARK. Some of them are so cool in concept and in execution. Every time I run a server, people beg me to make sure that this mod is on the server. PvP, PvE, whatever. They really like this mod. I usually also put in the Domination Rex as well. It's a very endgamey Tame. It's kind of Giga levels of power. Maybe a little bit more powerful than a Giga, but it takes a lot to get one. And it is really cool. Maybe not for PvP. I could see it possibly being broken for PvP, but especially in PvE, it is amazing. So there you've got some extra creatures that you might want. Here's another one that can be really cool. Also made by the guy that made Krakens Better Dinos, I'm pretty sure, is No Untamables. Some of the creatures in ARK that aren't tameable with this mod now will be. They'll be tameable, they'll be breedable. They come with extra features on them as well to make them worth taming, whether they passively generate something or whatever it is. This one is just another one of those that I have started using more and more. If you've ever played the game Atlas, which is kind of like a ARK but pirates kind of game, it was made by I believe it was made by the same team that made ARK, because if you've seen its setup menu, it looks up like exactly like this. It even says Dinos, and to my knowledge, there's no dinosaurs in Atlas. I might be wrong about that. I didn't play it that much, but those creatures that are from Atlas will come in with their abilities, and you can add them to ARK, and it's just, again, it's that many more features. They're really well done. It's mostly a port from Atlas to ARK, but these mods all working together give you a ton of new creatures that are all really high quality and enhance the ones that are already in the game. You know, if you want a very vanilla styled experience but just more of it, this is a beautiful mod setup to go with right here. You get your regular ARK feeling and just a whole bunch of extra features and dinos to tame that make the game, in my opinion, even more interesting. What else are you going to want? Well, apart from this, you're probably going to get into some more obscure or powerful mods that might change the game a little bit. So how about some quality of life mods that I would recommend? Beto 2K's binoculars. These are a modification of the tech binoculars from Genesis Part 1 that allows you to see a dinosaur's stats in the wild and what kind of food it's going to take to tame it, which can be extremely helpful. And it's not necessarily the cheapest thing to create. You don't get it immediately when you start the game. You have to work for it a little bit, but at the same time, There are also features of it that can be overpowered. Many of these things can be turned off, but we haven't covered I configurations yet. That's a little bit more advanced. I wanted to cover this mod menu before I got into that. But yeah, Beto 2K's binoculars, very useful, very handy. I usually turn off some of its features in the INI, and I'll go over how to do that in another video. But this is a really, really handy mod for just kind of scouting wild dinos that you might want to tame. Let's see what else is in here. Awesome Spyglass kind of does the same thing, except it's always active. You don't have to pull it up. It's not quite as vanilla. It's a little bit more powerful. It has its own set of features, but it's an alternative that I have used and still use from time to time instead of Beto 2K's, but I almost always run the binoculars. Dyno Storage. Later in the game, you get cryopods, which allows you to store dinosaurs in your pocket like they're Pokemon. You just keep them in your back pocket and carry them around with you everywhere. Even gigas and things like that can be cryoed and drug around. Well, Dyno Storage makes it even more convenient, as instead of cryopods, you get soul traps, which are faster, cheaper to make, and can be fired from a soul gun, which can be used to freeze dinos from a distance and pick up their items and pull them to your inventory. It's very, very configurable. Yes, it is a little bit overpowered in its vanilla state, but it's nothing necessarily that game-breaking. It is really cool and really convenient. Some of its terminal settings, auto trap features, the way that it displays stats to you after you tame something, or if you're going for breeding and mutations and stuff like that. This is an amazing mod to have. Along with, if you're talking about breeding, best eggs. Again, like I said, with many of these quality of life mods, this is something that's a little bit overpowered. But it's also, in this case, again, extremely convenient, because instead of having to constantly breed dinos with each other in the hopes that you get the best stats from each parent into one child, you can now just take it to the best eggs structure, hit a button, and instantly have a creature with the best stats from the parents. It doesn't make their stats better, it doesn't give them free mutations or anything like that, but it just cuts out all of the in-between from having two wild parents to having one perfect bred and imprinted tame. It cuts out all that middle ground. It makes it much faster and much more convenient. There are a few others that you might want. Here's another one. Awesome teleporters. This one is even more so than these others. This one is extremely powerful, and if you're worried about maintaining ARK's challenge or feel a little bit, you might want to be careful about putting this mod in your pack, because what this one does is add in a teleporter that's somewhat cheap to make, at least once you get to mid-game. It's pretty cheap to make. And you can put teleporters around everywhere and teleport from place to place to place in a really quick, it only takes a couple of seconds to teleport. You can teleport tames with you. You can pull tames back. You can retrieve your corpse inventory if you die somewhere. It's very convenient. Can be fun if used right. Just know what exactly kind of feel you're going for, and don't put it in a mod pack that you're not going to want it, because it is very powerful. It does make the game a little bit easier, but it's one of those convenience things that, you know, if you don't really care, you might want to go from place to place. I usually don't put this in my mod packs, but I have put it in some of the servers that I run. And the last and most powerful one that we're going to cover today is the upgrade station. The upgrade station allows you to take an item that you create. Let's say it's the beginning of the game and you make a bow. It allows you to put it in that terminal, in that station, and put extra materials that you would have used to craft it, or craft multiple, put it all in there, click it, click upgrade, and it takes it to the next tier. And then it takes it to the next tier, and the next tier, all the way up to Ascendant. And then you can augment it and max out its damage stat. And its durability stat. All of its stats. It gets a little expensive to get it all the way maxed out, but it makes ridiculously OP gear very much attainable and easy, especially if you play with boosted rates. I put this in a PvP server once, and I had a nerfed version of it, because again, like many of these mods, it's very configurable. I put a nerfed version of it in the PvP server, and it completely busted the server. It was so broken. That was kind of funny, and it was a little fun, but it was very, very broken, and I'm not doing that again. So, my apologies to those in my PvP server that were hoping that Upgrade Station will make its glorious return. And then, kind of back in the more normal side, this one is just slightly more powerful tranquilizers, but more importantly, more varied tranquilizers. It allows you to create different levels of narcotic and tranquilizer ammo for just about every weapon in the game. You can throw this in and not worry about things getting too out of hand. It has some fun elements to it, and it can definitely come in handy. It's another one of those mods that when I run my servers is very often requested. And as it says in the name, it's adjustable. You can adjust how long the torpidity effect is applied, how much torpor is applied on a per weapon basis, all kinds of stuff that you can modify with this, and more if you know how to do INI configs, which I will get into in a couple of episodes. But this is essentially it, other than these two. If you want a vanilla plus experience that's easier than normal ARK and more varied than normal ARK, but still has that same ARK feel, this is probably what I would recommend. There are a couple others in here that would be helpful. Custom Dino levels, random configs, boss arena tweaker, simple spawners. You know, those could all be really, really useful, but you have to configure many of those features in an INI. So if you don't know how to do that, you don't want to get into that, hey, don't worry about it. All right, just throw these in, even on their vanilla settings. It's not going to be anything too crazy, and you'll have a great time. So there you go. If you want my recommendation, this is the most modified. I would make a roughly vanilla ARK experience. Superstructures for the better building experience and additional features, including an item pulling system that makes crafting stuff, especially expensive stuff, really easy. Krakens Better Dinos for enhanced vanilla ARK dinos. ARK Editions The Collection for additional creatures. ARK Editions Domination Rex for an additional endgame creature. No Untamables for more tameable creatures in ARK and extra features on those creatures. Animals of Atlas for a port from Atlas to ARK, and all of those animals being feature complete, at least for the most part. Beto 2K's Binocular for stat scouting and food scouting on your tames as you're going about. Dyno Storage version 2, mostly for breeding and storage of dinos, but even just for getting around the map and having them in your pocket, very convenient. And if you run this in its vanilla state, and you follow my recommendation of running a PvP server, even if you're doing a PvE game, you don't have to worry about cryo sickness by default with this mod. So you just put that in, and you're fine. Best eggs to make breeding just a little bit easier and less grindy, and K+ adjustable tranks. That's my recommendation for Vanilla Plus. Some of these will work better for you than others, so, you know, to each his own. And there are plenty more than these. There's thousands and thousands of mods for you to look at. So go ahead, take a look in the Steam Workshop, you know, decide what you want to use. If you find a mod that works great for you, hey, try it out, see if it works. Some of them are outdated. They're not always going to work for you. So that's usually mentioned either in the mod page itself, or someone will comment beneath the mod. So maybe keep an eye out for that. Always read the description and most recent comments on a mod before you decide to install it. You don't want to install one that doesn't work anymore, and you want to make sure it's going to do what you want it to do. And it will help once you learn how to configure ionize. It'll help you to configure these mods, get them all working together and in the way that you want them to work. But that's it for mods. Once you've got these in place, all you have to do is click a map that you want to play, click play single player to play by yourself, run dedicated server to start a server on that map with these mods, or host non-dedicated session to start hosting a game that your friends can join so long as they have mods that match yours. And once you click play, it will load the game, the map, and the mods. Be warned, with mods, it will take extra long for the game to load because it has to load all of that extra data. And it's going to look like right now, it looks like my game is frozen. It is not frozen. It might freeze, but we don't know that yet because it does this every single time. And especially if you run with really large mod lists in the 20s or 30s in number of mods that you're using, or if you have major overhaul mods like ARK Omega, ARK Eternal, or Primal Fear. Those are huge mods that take a long time to load. So be patient. I have an M2 SSD and it takes Primal Fear and ARK Eternal more than 10 minutes to load. But as we go ahead and get into our spawn here on Aberration, the game's probably going to drop some frames a little bit as we load in. Here we are on Aberration. Looking pretty good. Everything's working. Open the inventory, check the engrams, and there we go. Dyno Storage stuff is marked here. Here's our best egg maker, K+ adjustable ammo, the soul finder for this Dyno Storage mod, superstructure stuff, which is marked with the SS, and this crafting station is great, by the way. I love this thing. With superstructures, pretty much every vanilla ARK structure has an SS variant that's also in the list. So, like, this is the regular ARK variant, and this is the superstructures variant. You're almost always going to want to build the superstructures one, but there are times you're going to want to switch back to vanilla ARK, so it helps to have both of them. And, yeah, so everything's working. Here we are on Aberration. Should I start a playthrough right now? I think we're good. But that's going to conclude it for today's video, and I love the Aberration theme and aesthetic. It is beautiful. Aberration is the best map. But yeah, that's it for today. If you guys have any questions, comments, things that you want me to consider, what topic should I consider next? Should it be INI configurations, or should we go ahead and get started with actual in-game tutorials? I will use my tutorial settings to help you guys show you how to play ARK Survival Evolved, that tutorial, that playthrough, how to spawn in, where to go, how to build your character, what stats you're going to want to put in, what engrams you're going to want to learn right away. I'm doing all of that stuff. We're going to go through every single creature, eventually, not in one video. That would take, oh God. But that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.